GON is Don. Okay, this is wild, I agree, but it kind of makes sense when you hear about it. And as Jin says, it's more fun that way. Both of them share the moniker Freecss. That of course was my first instinct when thinking about this, but also, GON was always a nature boy. He has a sharp nose able to detect perfume and chemicals kilometers away, like he did in the Hunter exam when he tracked Leorio based on his cologne, in addition to helping the latter locate his target based on the chemicals she uses. He also has a keen perception that allowed him to properly distinguish between the two identical Kirikos from the pre-Hunter exam, which according to them had been ages since a human was able to tell them apart. Ages, huh? Interesting. GON has his ways with magical beasts, because let me remind you that he has taken care of this orphan giant completely wild fox bear and became its mother, even though Kite, an expert, thought it to be impossible. The only exception to this is of course with Miku, the Zoldic's enormous hound, because the latter is trained to be empty of emotions and is actually more like a machine than a living creature. And GON in a rare sight was terrified when gazing into the abyss that is his eyes. Magical beasts of course originate from the Dark Continent. GON having a flair for dealing with them is a positive sign for our theory. Another is his superhuman senses that would be much needed in the infernal Forbidden Land. And don't forget about Zetsu, GON's specialty. I say this because he was able to master it without any prior knowledge or instruction when stalking Hisoka during the Hunter exam so as to take his badge, to the point where Hisoka had no idea GON was tailing him. For your information, Hisoka was able to detect Kaloto in the forest during Greed Island arc, and the Phantom Troop actually told him his Zetsu was perfect, it's just Hisoka was abnormal, which in comparison makes GON's Zetsu more than perfect, I guess. Sublime, I think is the word for that. But what does Zetsu have to do with Don Freecss, you may ask? The Dark Continent is full of unholy extinction level threats and untamed colossal beasts, to the stage where Isaac Netero, the pinnacle of man and probably the strongest human we'll ever see in the series, described it as too big, off the charts. And he also said, the only victory that can be obtained there is plain survival. Meaning, force or strength itself is useless in the new world, so following the logic of the series, the only way to live there hundreds of years like Don Freecss did is by possessing a flawless Zetsu, good enough to stay out of the radar of every hazard, have a tranquil mind, and be comfortable enough to pick up pen and paper and start writing about this hellish place. And GON has demonstrated that skill with outstanding ability. I mean Zetsu, not writing. I don't think GON is a good writer for now. But what about his father, Jin Freecss? Why would he tell people GON is his son? Well, you know how Jin is. He's lazy and obviously doesn't want to tell a very complicated story to a bunch of plebeians. And although share a great curiosity, the two of them are not alike at all because Jin is whimsical, lazy, and constantly running away from responsibility, things GON does not exercise. This theory would explain Jin's negligence towards GON, so much that the former would not even visit his son in the hospital when he was in most critical condition. Jin also in the past hired Razor, a dangerous death row convict, trained him to fight his son and told him not to hold back. Jin did all of this because he knew that GON/Don has limitless potential and will be fine no matter what. And by the way, Jin previously suggested Don is still alive, so yeah. And now allow me to present the how of this process, which is a large heap of half put together arguments, but hey, it's fun. Now, I don't have a precise answer, but it has to be Nen of course. That's the power that governs the world of Hunter x Hunter. Some kind of Nen ability that turned the original old man Don into a baby, or even allowed him to reincarnate after death. That reminds me of a certain Kite who had a similar ability and his teacher who taught him everything about Nen, Jin Freecss. Interesting. Whether he used the Nen ability willingly, or it was used against him by a Dark Continent entity, that I do not know. As for the means of transport from the Dark Continent to the human world, as far as we know, GON could even be a calamity that was brought back at a certain point, because look at his transformation against Pito. Calling it out of this world would not be hyperbolic at all. And by the way, this theory doesn't contradict that GON might have been born inside Greed Island, because if Don Freecss reincarnated somehow, there is nothing that stops him from being inside Greed Island, a real island by the way, and choosing a distant relative or maybe a descendant to be with.